Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Sukkah. We are up to Perek Aleph, Mishna Gimel. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilun Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana Aranbayev, and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam began Eden. Amen. The Mishnah continues with the laws of a covering that is unfit for schach. Here it uses the examples of a sheet. A sheet is unfit for schach because it can become tameh. The Mishnah begins, Peras aleh sadin mipnei hama. If one spread a sheet over the schach because he wants to protect people who use a sukkah from the sun. Now, although it is a valid sukkah, which has more shade than light, he wants to block the sunlight completely. Or if he spread a sheet beneath the schach because he wants to stop falling leaves and twigs from landing on the table. Or if he spread a canopy over a four-poster bed that is inside the sukkah. Now, a four-poster bed has a vertical pole at each of its four corners and horizontal bars that connect the top of one pole to the top of the next pole. When one spreads a canopy over such a bed, it forms a surface that is more or less flat. Whoever can see the diagram brought in note 3, the Mishnah says, Pisula, it is invalid. Now, in the first two cases, the entire sukkah is invalid because it is covered by something, the sheet, that is unfit for schach. A layer of invalid material, such as a sheet, disqualifies a sukkah whether it is above or below the schach. A sheet or similar covering renders a sukkah invalid only if it was intended to protect the sukkah, as in the Mishnah's first two cases, where it serves to block sunlight or prevent leaves from falling on the table. Since the sheet acts as a protective layer in those situations, it is a roof in its own right. But if the sheet was intended to decorate the sukkah, for example, it was embroidered with pictures and designs, it is viewed not as a separate roof, but as part of the schach, and therefore does not disqualify the sukkah. However, in order for a decorative sheet to be considered part of the schach, the gap between them may be no more than 4 tefachim. If the gap is any wider, the sheet is indeed a separate roof that disqualifies a sukkah. In the third case, the bed is invalid, meaning someone sleeping in the bed does not fulfill the mitzvah because he is under the roof formed by the sheet, which separates him from the sukkah, from the schach, of the sukkah. Now, the canopy is a roof over the bed. Therefore, although the sukkah itself is valid, a person on the bed does not fulfill his obligation to sleep in a sukkah since he is under a separate roof. However, one may spread a sheet over a two-poster bed because such a canopy slopes downward over the bed. Now, a two-poster bed has only two vertical poles, one at the head of the bed and one at the foot, that are connected on top by a horizontal bar. Whoever can see the diagram brought in note 6. Since it is not flat, it is not considered a roof that separates the person in the bed from the schach. In order for a covering to be defined as a roof, it must have a flat surface that is at least 1 tefach wide. Therefore, a canopy spread over a two-poster bed does not constitute a roof because its width, the top of the horizontal bar, is less than a tefach. And that is in a Mishnah Gimel. Mishnah Dal now deals with another case of a sukkah covered by both valid and invalid schach. Hidla aleh et gefen vet dilat vet kisom. If one lifted part of a grapevine, a gourd vine, or ivy and spread it over a sukkah without detaching it from the ground, now these plants are long enough that they can be spread over a sukkah even when still attached to the ground, v'sikech al gabah, and then laid valid schach over it, pisula. The sukkah is invalid because a plant attached to the ground is unfit for schach. Although the sukkah is a regular layer of schach, the invalid layer of branches disqualifies, and it's similar to the case in Mishnah 2 of a sukkah under a tree. But if there is more valid schach than plant and they are mixed together, or shekitzatsan, or if he cut the plant detaching it from the ground, kishera, the sukkah is valid. In the first case where there is more valid schach than attached plant and they are mixed together so that the plant does not appear to be separate from the valid schach, the branches lose their separate identity. Therefore, only valid schach covers a sukkah. Now, this is an application of the known rule as bitul berov, nullification by majority. A mixture of two substances, each of a different halachic status, takes on the halachic status of the substance that is in the majority. And in the second case, where the plant is detached from the ground, the plant itself becomes valid schach. Even if he cut them after he put them on the sukkah is valid. Now, in that case, however, it is not enough just to cut them. He must pick up each branch and put it back down. This is because the Torah says, ta'aseh, you shall make, which is interpreted to mean ta'aseh v'lo min ha'asur, you shall make a sukkah and not just fix that which was already made. Therefore, the item to be used as schach must be built or put in place as valid schach in the first place. We may not put down something that is invalid and then remove the disqualifying factor because that is fixing schach rather than making it. In our case, then, it does not suffice to cut the branches. One must remake the schach, which can be accomplished by picking it up and putting it back down. And the Mishnah defines which materials are fit for schach. Zeh klal. This is the rule. Kol shu mekabel tuma ven gidulo min haaretz en misachichin bo. Anything that can become tameh or does not grow from the ground may not be used as schach. Therefore, for example, wooden utensils and linen clothing are unfit for schach. Although they are made of materials that grow from the ground, they are capable of becoming tameh. Tumah can be transmitted to people, food, drinks, clothing, and most utensils. But anything that cannot become tameh and grows from the ground may be used as schach. Therefore, any plant that is not a food, item of clothing, or utensil is fit for schach. However, it must be detached from the ground, like the Mishnah said above. And that is in Rabotai today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.